Good evening, Canby. Welcome to the June 19th City Council regular meeting. It is our favorite meeting of the year because it is jam-packed with end-of-year wrap-up or end of our fiscal year and the beginning of and closing out budget stuff for the next year. So you please stand for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this great community. Thank you for the amazing weather that we are having, and thank you for the safe graduations that have occurred here in Canby and around the Portland metro area. I especially want to take a moment and lift up the family of Barbara Carmel. She's a longtime resident here who recently passed away. So just lift up her family for you and provide them comfort and solace in this challenging time. In your name, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Just for the viewing audience, we are not down 3 city councilors. We do have 2 of them zooming in this evening, so they should be on the screen behind. Their beautiful smiles. Thank you, Jason. And then our illustrious city attorney, Mr. David Doofman, is joining us to make sure that the council stays on track. Perfect. Eileen, do we have some new employee introductions this evening?
We do. I'd like to call Monica up to the podium.
Good evening, Mayor and City Councilors. My name is Monica Stone, and I am with the wastewater treatment plant. I'm the supervisor there, and I'm here tonight to introduce Steve Gehring. He is our new environmental compliance coordinator. You may previously have known that position as a pre-treatment coordinator. This position now will also oversee industrial pre-treatment, working with industries, still the FOG program, pollution prevention, and working with the community, also working with the stormwater compliance program and wastewater treatment. So really happy to have him. He lives in the city of Aurora. He tells me that is just too much of a commute. He's considering moving to Canby as soon as he can. He enjoys riding his motorcycle, which we haven't seen yet, but looking forward to that. He previously worked at the city of Wilsonville and worked in public works for 18 years. And the last 2 to 3 years there, worked as a pre-treatment coordinator, and so really familiar with that program. We are so lucky to have him come on board, and just wanted to introduce you to him tonight.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you for taking a chance on me, and I look forward to trying to do the best I can. Thank you.
Well, Steve, welcome to the Canby team. We're excited to have you here, and yeah, it sounds like you're joining a good group of new people that Monica and Jerry seem to be rolling into town, so perfect. So welcome to the team.
Thank you.
We're fully staffed, so very excited.
Oh, that's very exciting. That's been a while.
It has, yeah.
So very good. Well, thank you. Great job. Welcome aboard. Do we have any other introductions, Eileen?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Next on the agenda is our usual opportunity for citizen input and community announcements. There's an opportunity for audience members to address the city council on items that are not on the agenda. If you are attending in person, which I don't think we have anybody tonight to do that. Okay. But if you were to want to address the council and Zoom in, please reach out to the city recorder by 4:30 on the nights of our city council meeting. If you do want to show up in person, back on the podium back there are some yellow cards that you can fill out, give to our city recorder or our deputy city recorder, and we will give you your 3 minutes of fame and glory here at the desk. And so I don't have any yellow cards. It doesn't We don't have anything tonight? Okay, perfect. That will put us into the consent agenda this evening.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the consent agenda that includes the approval of the June 5th, 2024 regular city council meeting minutes, the approval of the reappointments of committee, commission, and board members that include these terms expiring June 30th, 2024. They are Bike and Pedestrian Committee, Bruce Parker, Clifford Ash. Budget Committee, Liz Chapin. Library Advisory Board, Linda Warwick and Amy Noss. Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, Dave Bisker, Kara Hawkins, Terry Jones. And the Traffic Safety Commission, Deanna Ball-Carb, Gary Bryant, and Clint Coleman. And also includes the approval of the second additional location brewery public house OLCC application for Meadowright Brewing LLC located at 292 North Holly.
Second. Thank you, sir. Sounds like we're picking up somebody's TV or radio. Do you have that list of people, do I need?
Do what?
No, I guess, yeah. Okay, so it's been moved by Council President Hensley and seconded by Councilor Sassy to approve the consent agenda, which include the approval of the June 5th, 2024 regular city council meeting minutes, approval of reappointments to our various committees, commissions, and boards of Bruce Parker, Elizabeth Chapin, Linda Warwick, Amy Noss, Dave Biskar, Kara Hawkins, Terry Jones, Deanna Ball-Carb, Gary Bryant, Clint Coleman. And then also approval of the second additional location brewery public house OLCC application for Meteorite Brewing LLC located at 292 North Holly Street. Any discussion or comment? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, anyone opposed? That passes 5-0. Perfect. Next up is our public hearings this evening. We have 3 of them for just our usual fanfare for the year. Mr. Doofman, procedural question for you, and I think I ask this every year, and you would think that I would know this by now. Can I do one legislative reading of the main section and then just open up the public hearing piece, or do I need to read that for each one?
Are you talking, Mayor, about the script that you would read? Is that what you mean by legislative?
Correct.
Yeah, it's fine to read it for all 3. That's not a problem for this.
Okay. Thank you, sir. That'll save me from reading way too much tonight. Okay.
And just to clarify, but within each one, we want to take public comment separately. So
Absolutely.
read the script once. Okay.
You bet. Okay. So generally, this evening, just for the council here and on Zoom, we are going to do each public hearing. There is a motion already pre-done, and we will do the motion for the resolution at the conclusion of each public hearing. So just so that you know, that's a little different than years before. We've done the public hearing and then come back and then waited until resolution time, but we're going to combine it all together into one. Any questions on that at all? Okay. So our first public hearing this evening is regarding state revenue sharing funds. So the matter presently before the hearing body requires a public hearing. All interested persons in attendance shall be heard on the matter. If you wish to testify on this matter, please fill out a yellow public testimony card and give it to the city recorder. At the appropriate time, please step forward to the microphone, state your name and interest in the matter. Those people that are interested in testifying as either proponents or opponents, please indicate your desire to speak this evening by raising your hand at this time. Thank you. For longer presentations, proponents and opponents may buy time from one another. In so doing, those either in favor or opposed may allocate their time to a spokesperson who will represent the entire group. All questions and comments must be directed through the mayor. Any evidence to be considered must be submitted to the hearing body for public access. All written testimony received both for and against shall be summarized by staff and presented briefly to the hearing body during the staff report. The public hearings will be conducted as follows. Each one will have a staff report. There'll be questions, if any, by the hearing body or by staff. I will then open the public hearing for testimony. If the proponents will be given 3 minutes each, opponents will also be given 3 minutes. I will then close the public hearing. Questions, if there are any additional questions by the hearing body, and then discussion by the hearing body. A decision may be made by the hearing body at the close of the hearing, or the matter will be continued to a date certain in the future. This will be the only notice of that date you will be given. Does anyone have any questions about the procedures of the hearing this evening? Okay. So as I said, our first one this evening is the public hearing regarding state revenue funds, and I believe I'll hand it over to Eileen to move forward.
I'm going to turn this over to Scott as well.
Okay.
So he's the man of the night.
Get comfortable, Scott.
Mayor and Council, Scott Schlag, Finance Director. Since I have several of these, let me go find the first one. The first one before you is the state revenue sharing funds. Under ORS 221.770, this is a requirement that the city annually pass an ordinance or resolution requesting state revenue sharing money. This law mandates public hearings to be held by the city, both before the Budget Committee to discuss possible uses of the funds and before the City Council on the proposed uses of the funds in relation to the entire budget. Certification of these hearings are required, and this has to be done and filed with the Oregon Department of Administrative Services prior to July 31st. In doing so, after this has been approved, I will file the appropriate paperwork and documentation with Oregon Department of Administrative Services, and we will then be subject to receiving state revenue shares funds for the upcoming fiscal year. Any questions in regards to this?
Counselor Stearns.
Just for everybody's education, we're asked to vote on this. Does anybody ever vote against this, or is there any reason to not vote for it? I'm just waiting for forced to say yes. Why?
In my dealings with, as an auditor for cities, I've never seen anybody not accept state revenue shared funds.
Okay, I'm just curious why.
Scott, can you enumerate the shared funds
Sure.
that we're basically voting on this evening?
Yeah, the shared funds are primarily, forgive the term, but that's what I used to call them, were the sin taxes. That had to deal with cigarette tax, liquor tax, those collected by the OLCC. Marijuana tax is one of those, but the City of Canby has not voted that in to receive those. I also believe 911 is also a part of that, even though it's not a sin tax, but it is part of the revenue sharing portion. So those are the taxes that are collected by jurisdictions that are turned over to the state, and then the state then has a formula that they basically wind up calculating and then turn over to the jurisdictions that have voted in or approved to accept state revenue shared funds.
Great, thank you.
Are there any conditions to receiving those funds other than just?
Just this
Just vote.
acceptance
Okay.
in a public format.
Yeah, so to your question, Counselor Stearns, I suppose a council could say no, but then that's a significant impact to your city's
Yeah. I've seen
budget,
that.
so, yeah.
I'm just curious as to why we have to have the big song and dance for it.
ORS 221.770.
Basically, the law requires us to consent and say we want them. That's really what it comes down to.
I think in the long run, the state hopes that we'll vote no, and then they can keep it. All right.
If that's the case, I think next year we should get cake and balloons.
Say that again, Counselor Patton?
If that's the case, I think next year we need to get cake and balloons for this one.
Cake and balloons.
Duly noted, sir. Okay. Any other questions for our finance director on this matter? Not seeing any, great. I will open up the public hearing for testimony. We didn't see any hands for anyone that would be for us taking these. So do we have anyone, and no one really wanted to jump up and say, no, don't take this money? So I will close the public hearing. Any additional questions and discussion? Okay, thank you for that, Scott. I will, if there's so inclined to make a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt resolution number, still looking for it, 1410, resolution declaring the city's election to receive state revenue for the fiscal year 2025.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's been made by Council President Hensley and seconded by Councilor Patton to approve resolution number 1410, a resolution declaring the city's election to receive state revenue for fiscal year 2025. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That passes 5-0. Next up is a public hearing regarding fiscal year 2025 budget as recommended by the Budget Committee. I will still stand by the opening statement, and we will have a staff report by our Finance Director, Mr. Schlag. Hello, sir. Good to see you again.
Hello. Good to see you again.
Floor is yours.
The resolution in front of you is probably a one that you've seen on multiple occasions in your capacity as counselors and mayor. Oregon budget law requires an adoption of an annual budget by June 30th of each year. Under ORS 294.453 requires the city to hold a public hearing, and ORS 294.458 requires the city to submit tax certification documents to the county assessor by July 15th. The city passed a local option levy of 49 cents per 1,000 of assessed property value on November 18th, 2016 to fund the swim center operations. The city levies the tax provided for in the adopted budget at the permanent rate of $3.4886 per 1,000 of assessed property value. The allocation and categorization are subject to the limits of Section 11B, Article X1, which I'm not sure I'm going to say, if Roman numeral 10-1. I don't think I've seen that before, but David can correct me if that's of the Oregon Constitution. On May 16th, 2024, then again May 23rd of 2024, and then on May 30th of 2024, the City of Canby Budget Committee met to deliberate over the fiscal year 24-25 proposed budget. Staff reviewed the proposed budget with the committee and allowed for public comment. The fiscal year 24-25 proposed budget was approved by the committee with the changes that were detailed in the memos provided during and after budget meetings. So currently before you is that resolution 1411.
Great. Thank you, sir.
Any questions? Oh, and I do want to
Yes.
make sure that we emphasize that 1411, and there's also a 1411A. These two resolutions are slightly different because there is an actual conflict of interest with one of the counselors, Counselor Sassy, because of his as a related party relationship with his daughter that touches 4 different funds. And so under advisement, we have 4 funds that are separated from the overall other funds. And those are the 2 that will be presented for separate approvals.
Okay.
And I think that's 1411A that is the amount that's separated out.
Separated, correct.
So Counselor Sassy, you will need to abstain from voting on that resolution.
As well as just any discussion around the resolution. And I can elaborate on why we're going through all this rigmarole, Mayor, Councilor Sassy, if you want.
Okay. No, makes sense, though. Okay. Anything else on this? No? Okay. Questions for Scott? For Mr. Schlag? No? Jason or Jim, any questions for our finance director?
No.
Okay. Jason, questions at all?
If I had them, I'd ask them.
Okay. All right, well, then I will open up the public hearing for testimony on this public hearing. Is there any proponents or opponents that want to address the council? Okay. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. I don't think we have any other questions or discussion, but go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt Resolution 1411A, a resolution making appropriations for the 2025 fiscal year in the general fund, planning and building programs, the street fund, and the sewer fund.
Second.
Motion's been made by Council President Hensley and seconded by Councilor Davis to adopt Resolution 1411A, a resolution making appropriations for the 2025 fiscal year in the general fund for planning and building programs, the street fund, and the sewer fund. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And one an abstention?
One abstention.
Perfect. So that is 401.
Okay, and then, Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt Resolution Number 1411, a resolution adopting the budget, making appropriations, and imposing and categorizing taxes for the 2025 fiscal year.
Second. Motion has been made by Council President Hensley and seconded by Councilor Sassy to adopt Resolution Number 1411, a resolution adopting the budget, making appropriations, and imposing and categorizing taxes for the 2025 fiscal year. Any other discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That one passes 5-0. Great. Our next public hearing will be about setting fees for services, adopting updated master fee schedule. So this is resolution nope, just kidding.
1409.
Resolution 1409, thank you. Mr. Slack.
The master fee schedule requires an annual review and has been completed by each city department. Staff proposes the following changes that are effective July 1st of 2024. Before you is Resolution 1409, and also includes Exhibit A, which is summarizing the proposed fee changes. There's Exhibit B, showing a comparison of current fees versus proposed fees. And Exhibit C, which reflects the new scheduled effective as noted herein if all changes are adopted. Some highlights that I have listed here are library fees. Would you like me to go over each one of those that I've highlighted, or are there specific questions? How would you like to proceed with this particular portion?
I think for the general public, I would like to have you touch on the changes as well.
Okay. The library fee, overdue print and non-print items. Reduce the fee to 10 cents per day, $1 maximum per item for all materials except library of things and in-house only. Utility fees, park maintenance fee monthly, Residential and multifamily per dwelling unit increased to $6.05. Reduced rate increased to $3.03. Commercial and industrial per utility account increased to $6.05. Parks, new. This fee is for Wait Park banner installation and removal introduced. The fee for in-city and out-of-city is $176. Main Street, also new, removing the early bird and regular registration fee for the Independence Day Car Show and setting a standard $20 registration fee for all car show participants. In Public Works, a new fee for the Grant Street Arc banner installation and removal fee of $220. System development charges. SDC fees have increased due to inflation. And please review Schedule A for all actual changes. I don't know if we want to go over all of those line items.
No, I think just if you want to hit the main ones, I think looking at the initial, so single family, you're talking about park STCs or all of them in general?
All of them in general, and these have all been revised per planning.
So single family for parks is going to what?
I'm not sure I'm seeing anything particular in that one.
Doesn't the fees vary, the SDCs vary depending on the,
It
like,
does,
development?
correct.
So are we gonna give a specific size development for him to be able to look on the chart and figure it out?
Well, I was initially looking at the page, the update that we had in there,
Exhibit A,
yes, which I think was the breakdown of every, just by department.
yeah, I'm not seeing anything that really highlights the specific one that you inquired on.
We are seeing an increase of STCs on all STCs along all categories.
There's nothing under here that I would indicate that I would give you an appropriate answer.
That's fine.
I would like to call Dawn to the stand, but I don't think Dawn's here.
We'll hold Don accountable another evening. Okay, no, I
So
appreciate that.
unfortunately, yeah, I wouldn't want to give you an answer that I don't actually have.
No, I appreciate
The only
that.
thing I wanted to say is that we do have scheduled an SDC fee methodology update this next year. So we will be reviewing our SDCs again.
Okay.
It may actually have sequence number 429, single family. According to our master fee schedule, which has a further breakdown or clearer breakdown than this Excel file, even though I love Excel. This tells me that a single family Parks SDC went to 6913 from 6773. For multifamily also went up, but there's 4 different manufactured housing and non-residential.
Okay.
So I think on the very back, on the last 4 is what, but it's unclear if that's related to the park in particular.
No, that's perfect. Again, just kind of think I wanted to call out some of the significant changes that the heavier usage fees that we usually discuss, and SDCs being one of those, with all the conversation of building and water treatment facilities and parks and things like that. So that helps. Thank you.
Perhaps next year, we can have a number that basically says this less this equals that change. Might be able to give a little bit further detail.
Yeah, there's only a few fees that we charge here in the city of Canby, so no, I think it's Exhibit C is a really good one too, so it's a good breakdown. Okay. Jason, you have your hand up, sir.
Yeah, so here's the deal. Any number that Scott gives out right now is only gonna agitate me further because I don't think our fees are high enough. I know we raised them a little while ago, but it's still cheap for people to build in Canby. And if people are complaining about a bunch of people coming in here, we need to actually start charging for what it's worth to come here and start charging more for the services and stuff that are being put in so that we actually can maintain them further on down the road. So that's my opinion on these fees.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Yes, Counselor Stearns.
Because, question about the library fees. I can't imagine how accounting for these fees would actually be less expensive than the actual fees being charged, 10 cents, $1 a day with
Dollar max for
dollar max. And I would imagine that there's probably very little effort spent on collection of the fees. So my question, I mean, is there a reason why we have these fees that are basically literally nickeling and diming people?
I don't believe I have an answer to that, as I'm not the library director, and
It used to be 25 cents.
Well,
I'm not reducing it.
I can certainly answer that question. So we used to charge 25 cents a day per item with a max of $5 per item, and then we went to 10 cents with a max of $1, and that was link-wide. So it's not just our library, it's all the other libraries as well that changed to that fee schedule. The only change on this year's is that we had another item that went down in fees. So that's the only change that's actually here, but we do actually collect that money from a lot of our patrons. Most of them see it as a donation to the library, which is exactly what it is. And it does actually offset certain costs. I don't remember what the actual number is so far.Maybe Scott, you have that for what we've collected this year alone in fines and fees, but I can also say we offer fee waive vouchers. We also just waive fees generally. So if anyone's having, a difficult issue in paying those, then we can waive those too. So, I mean, at this point, most people don't even have to pay the fines as long as they stay under $25, but we're just basically following the rest of Link libraries and the plan that they have in place.
Okay. So if it's kind of a donation, why shrink it? I mean, if it's, if it's kind of voluntary, why not raise it? I'm just kind of trying to,
No,
in my
I got
mind,
you.
trying to figure out the logic of going from 25 cents to 10 cents and how that has any meaningful fiscal impact on operations. That's kind of trying to wrap my head around.
I'm going to try to answer this as quickly in a way that makes sense as I can, because this is definitely an issue that all of the libraries in Clackamas County are kind of dealing with right now. So Multnomah County libraries, Fort Vancouver, Washington County, they all went fine-free. And we obviously haven't gone fine-free, but that's because the tax rate for our libraries in Clackamas County is the lowest in the Portland metro area, so we can't actually afford to completely get rid of fines and fees for, late items. It's something that we're working on, but the first step in trying to get to that point was going down in fees, making our fines lower. So it's something we're working on because we obviously want everybody to be able to access the library without fearing that they're gonna have to, pay more. But in the end, people who live in Multnomah County, Washington County, who are fine-free at their libraries, they're actually paying a higher tax rate, so they're kind of paying for that. So anyway, this is a long, long conversation, but yeah, just a bit of what's been going on in the libraries in Clackamas County and around the area.
Okay, so we reduced the fees so that we can eliminate the fee eventually, but not quite there yet, and, okay.
Yeah, that's kind of
I'm
the
sort
plan.
of-
We want to get rid of it at some point, but at this point, we also still need that funding, honestly, so.
But not as much as earlier because you're reducing the fee. I'm like I said, maybe I'm just expressing my puzzlement on the financial motivations for the fees. If it's to raise money, then I don't see why we're reducing it. And if we don't want to charge a fee, I don't see why we're going through the effort of literally asking for dimes from people per day. So
I completely agree with you. At this point, we still do need the money. We just kind of followed the plan of the rest of the Clackamas County libraries to lower that fee because it was presenting as a barrier for some people. But at this point, even though the funding that we do get through the fines and fees that are collected, it does make a difference. We're still trying to meet our patrons where they're at and getting them as much service as we possibly can for as little as possible. But, we do still need the money.
Okay. And the other thing I just, maybe as a general question is, I was just looking through some of these fees. I don't see a lot of fee increases. So are most of the fees not tied to inflation or anything? Or are we just expecting that each year we're reducing fees for everybody, the inflation that's been pretty high the last few years? I mean, is that our general city plan, is to do a tax or a fee reduction every year for that reason?
Well, I don't, so if you're saying that the reduction is coming because there's an
inflation, yeah.
inflation piece and we're not necessarily increasing them.
Because if we're not increasing the fees, then the buying power of the fees collected is going down, and the actual cost for people, is going down because, as the, consumer price index increases and wages increase and everything, it takes a smaller portion of everybody's budget. And so there's a general rule, our general principle, there's arguments made for no fees if we want to give away a service for free, but if we're going to have fees and fees are going to be something that we rely on, isn't not increasing them based on inflation, basically reducing both the cost of the fee and the benefit we get from the fee?
If I can respond, just process-wise, we do send out the master fee schedule every year as the budget's put together for the departments to take a look at their fee schedules and to make suggested changes. Admittedly, I did not look very closely at the fee schedule this year as my attention was elsewhere, but it is something that I want to do in future years, is take a closer look at the fee schedule and make sure that, that we're increasing fees where we need to or where we can, and make sure the, CPI indexes or just better understand how this fee schedule works. I don't understand quite yet how it works.
Okay, because if we want to give everybody a break and not, but I think we should be acknowledging that we're giving people a break. I'm all in favor of tax cuts when it affects me personally, especially. But as far as fiscal policy, I think we need to acknowledge that our fees are actually going down when we don't increase them And I mean, you know, a couple of years ago, inflation was nothing, so maybe not have made it much different, but the last at least 2 or 3 years it's going to take a significant chunk of the power of the fees out, and then we're going to be looking around for.
Well, I think
Money.
particularly where you have, you know, a large revenue source, can you and are you charging the maximum amount? Or could you increase that fee to take a maximum advantage of that? So as I said, we'll be looking at that this next year.
Are there ones that specifically kind of jump out that you,
Well, I mean,
in looking at this?
for, you know, the street, you know, maintenance fees, obviously, I think there could be room for better maintained streets in Canby. So that's something that, you know, jumps out at me.
And that one, you know, you will recall that Councillor Patton has, you know, convened the street maintenance task force. So that one probably didn't increase at all because we're waiting for the task force's work to be finished before that one is changed.
I mean, there's a lot of fees that, I mean, there's a lot on the list, I didn't go through all of them. But I think without needing to go through all of them, I think as a general policy, the city should be either saying we increase based on consumer price index increases, or we decide as a council that we want to give people a break, that we don't need that fee as bad as we did before, which is what we're saying by not increasing, is we're saying we don't need that fee as bad as we needed it before. And I think that should be out in the open, that these fees that are increased, we're basically saying, well, we don't quite need it as much as we used to. And if that's not the case, it should be brought up and adjusted accordingly. But, you know, that's kind of I don't know if my fellow city councilors agree with that position or not, but it is like saying we don't need the fee as much. And if that's true, then, you know, that's true, but it should be stated.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Valid points. Yes, Councilor Patton, your turn.
So just as a heads up, and this is for Councilor Stearns and Councilor Sassy and such, there has always been a concern that our fees are not tied to cost to recapture our cost recovery. And there's been work done over the last several years to try and get these fees closer to capturing the actual cost and recovering the cost of some of these services and such. That conversation, I think, got derailed a little bit with all the changes the city has gone through in the last year or so. I think, if memory serves me correctly, Eileen had talked about how in a future meeting, we're going to be discussing some of these fees, especially the development fees and stuff, to see how they need to be adjusted to be more in line with A, cost recovery, and B, where we stand with other cities. I believe that last year or so, there was actually a pretty significant increase in some of those fees that was brought forward by the planning director. And so every year we get a little closer to trying to get this in line, but it's because some of them are so out of whack, it's going to take some time. We just can't raise them all at once in one big chunk and then really agitate people. So if that seems to be my recollection of all this fee stuff.
Well, thank you. Yeah. One thing I do tell my business clients a lot is if you're not increasing the fees every year, you're reducing them. And a lot of times what happens is you're forced to increase by a very large amount, which causes a lot of shock and difficulty for people who've budgeted that fee in there. The cost of whatever price what you're selling. But if you keep it as a predictable increase that everybody expects and a smaller amount, usually people can adjust their budgets for that. But the real danger is to say we haven't raised it in 10 years, so now we're going to triple it. And because we're forced to, because of monetary needs, when it really should have been much better off if it was a gradual reduction or increase in fee, so that everybody expects and they know why. It's because, well, prices go up. $1 doesn't buy the same things it did earlier, you know. I guess that's all.
No,
Got it.
but very valid points and questions, so glad you asked them. Thank you. Scott, is there anything else to inform us about on this one?
None that I have for
Okay.
this one.
Any questions, any other questions for Scott? No? Okay. Well, then I will open up the public hearing for this particular portion of the evening, and then if we've got any proponents and opponents on this one. Okay, not seeing any, I will close the public hearing. Any additional questions or discussion? Okay.
Well, I guess I'll just, rather than for a second, wait for discussion, I'll just say my piece real quick. I'll be voting no on this because while I do agree with usage fees such as the park banner installation, the arch banner installation, that kind of thing, car show, all of that's fine. Those are optional usage fees, but the utility fee is not optional. They could not use the park and still have to pay for it even if they can't afford to. And it's a tax that you can call it a fee, but I will still attest that it's a tax. And I'm also not in agreement of the library fees, but I actually have an opposite of opinion, I think, of Councilor Stearns. 10 cents a day of the maximum of $1 when libraries countywide need more funding. It doesn't teach accountability, it doesn't teach responsibility to get that book back on time. I think it's ridiculous we're lowering them. We should be raising them back to the 25 cent and holding people accountable for keeping things too long. So I will be a no vote on this fee schedule.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other discussion items on this?
Just a quick question. If the council were to vote no on this fee, obviously, we can't really, the way this ordinance is written, we can't really piecemeal. It's either vote yes on all of them or no on all of them, correct? At this point, or is there a way to have another way to modify them or a work session or something to go over them? Because it seems rather, I don't know, all or nothing when there's,
Well, they are-
hundreds of fees in there that we could go choose, and it seems like they've been chosen for us, which is fine, I guess, but
Well,
but
and
if
they-
there's a problem with one or two, could we split those fees off, or?
There is, so, I mean, to Eileen's comment, yes, it is somewhat decided for us in that each of the departments goes through their fee schedules and adjusts accordingly. So that's the conversation Eileen has and Scott has with the department heads on that. Now, for us as a council, if we disagree, I believe now is that time for us to be able to say, I would rather see this happen for this particular fee, and we can have that discussion, and then we can just amend, make the motion to approve the fee sheet as amended. As
That's
far as I understand, I mean, if we're following
correct.
procedure, and I've got head nods from Eileen and David, so, I mean, if there's particular ones that you want to go through right now and have that conversation about, we can.
they
If
are-
we don't approve it, then I believe it just reverts to what's currently in queue.
The
So what
current
they're
fee
currently being
schedule.
feed, our fees are being charged. So, with that said, and Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, there's a certain amount of our city's revenue factored into the next budget based on projections on each of these fees.
As a whole, revenue, yes.
Yeah, okay. So that would then be an impact until we do approve a new fee structure piece. Okay, so then the budget as it is now would have to be adjusted accordingly.
Correct.
Okay. Am I leaving anything out in that process?
No, it starts at the department level, and then it trickles down to me.
Okay. So, I mean, we can. I mean, I'm not saying that we can't. I just want out there the.
Well, what I'm hearing is that Councilor Hensley approves of many of the fees, but not a few of them, and that would be nice to address those particular fees, but I know if we went through every single fee on this fee list, we could, might as well just bring our sleeping bags and as a practical matter. So I'm wondering if it would be appropriate to discuss the fees individually, because I agree with what you say about, I think the fee, the 10 cents fee is way too small. But my argument of eliminating them is that if it's that small, what's the point, kind of thing. But if there's other fees like, the utility fees or things like that need more meaningful discussion, I'm wondering if there's a way of proving everything except for that fee, and then maybe have another council meeting that would address some of the fees that people have actual concerns with.
Mr. Mayor,
Hang on, Counselor Patton has his
I
hand
was
up
just going to
first.
save us some time by answering him, but give him a little history. I historically vote no on the park fee, so it's okay.
Okay, no,
I was gonna
I'm just
say
wondering,
that, but-
I just want to make sure that if somebody has a legitimate concern, that we have the option of talking about it.
For 13 years, I've told my constituency I will not vote for tax without going to a vote of the people, so I will always be a no on this. Unless we
Okay.
go to the people, so save you some headache.
No, I'm just, like I say, I just want to make sure that,
But that, as an example aside, there are other pieces within the fee sheet that you had mentioned, and also what does that look like conversation-wise? So, yes, I didn't want to speak for you, I'm glad you said it, that, yeah, you're relatively a no on this every year. Counselor Patton, and then I'll come to you, Marissa.
Yeah, so I think it's been, regarding the library fee, I think it's been made very clear by Marissa that this is something that's more set by the library district and not necessarily the City of Canby's library. They're making these changes to, there's really no changes, just other than to one item. All the rest are the very same as they were last time. So that's that. As far as being able to break, as far as reviewing these fees, I think this is something that needs to be looked at again. And now that we have a more stable administration within the city, this is something that we can look at for next year, especially considering the street maintenance fee task force has started its meetings and will most likely be making a recommendation of some sort to the city council. That will be a good part of this larger discussion. Yes, I know as a counselor that if we wanted to, we could break some of these fees out and tackle them individually. I am a proponent of moving forward with the fee schedule as is, but I will say that if there is a desire or if there is a move to break out certain fees and make changes to them, it was actually a recommendation by the members of the street maintenance task force at our first meeting that this fee schedule be adjusted and the city and the street maintenance fee be tied to an inflationary mechanism. It was mine and Councilor Hensley's recommendation that because this fee schedule is moving forward, that we should probably actually look at this as a raft of changes rather than singling out this one now and then some more later. But if this is cracked open, I will advocate for that street maintenance fee being tied to an inflationary mechanism this year, and then wait for the changes that are going to be recommended by the street maintenance fee to catch up.
Okay, thank you, sir. Marissa?
Yeah, I was just gonna basically repeat a little bit of what Counselor Patton said, but the library fines and fees have not changed this year. The only thing that changed was one specific type of item that wasn't originally there, and so we wanted to make sure it matched all the others. And then I did also just want to say, we do need money, and we do know that, and we are working on it. We do eventually want to get rid of fines and fees, but we also want to establish a new tax district before we do that. And the research for what a new tax district could look like at a different rate is currently underway. So we are working on all of this, but I did just want to say the library fines and fees in general have not changed. It was just one specific type of item.
Okay, thank you, Marissa. Yeah, the other piece I'd give to Daniel and even, sorry, Counselor Stearns and the rest of the council, I would say definitely look over this fee schedule. And if it is a line by line piece, then, and take a look at them and determine, and go, well, is this reasonable? Is it not? Is it, should we look at that piece of it? Because then we can add that as a conversation piece later in the fiscal year as we get ready for budget season. And that way staff knows, hey, council might have some either concerns or in favor of changes to the fee schedule. That would be my recommendation, and to Councilor Patton's piece, if there's something in here that we specifically want to talk about and iron out and make an adjustment through this year, or make sure that it gets adjusted in the 25-26 budget, then that can be something that's done as well. But to Councilor Patton's point, we have talked about cracking open this fee schedule sheet, and to the stability aspect of things, I think, I agree with Councilor Patton on that we definitely are a much better spot to do that than what we've been probably in the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's not my hill to die on whether or not the fees go up this year or not, but I just think it's a fiscally short-sighted to not account for the time value of money in our financial calculations. And that's something I do with my clients, and something I do everything. We have to, currency is not stable in value, and since currency is not stable, if we don't acknowledge that, then we're setting ourselves, especially expectations, because if the expectation the fee will never go up, then the expectation needs to be that the service will go down. And that, and it's not like that's the way I want it to be, it's just that's the way it is.
Well, you look at what a city's function is, it's providing services.
Yeah.
We don't make anything, we don't sell anything, we provide services. So there's a cost associated with this. Councilor Patton?
I call previous question.
Okay.
Never mind. You called the question.
I don't know if we haven't had a motion yet. So if you want to make a motion on this one.
I thought there was a motion made. I thought we were in discussion for our motion.
No, we were in discussion by the hearing body on this report, or on this particular hearing. We're just finishing up the hearing.
It's on what, 109?
1409.
I'll just email her.
Okay, there's like, I move to adopt resolution number 1409, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Canby, Oregon, setting fees for services and repealing resolution 1389.
Second.
Okay, motion has been made by Councilor Patton and seconded by Councilor Davis to adopt resolution 1409, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Canby, Oregon, setting fees for services and repealing resolution 1389 and all previous resolutions adopting a master fee schedule. Any other further discussion?
One comment, please.
Yes.
Kind of directed to Marissa a little bit, but just for general knowledge for those who are new to this subject. I realize there's only one difference one change to this library line, but in the name of history and consistency, I wasn't a fan when we reduced it in the first place, so that's why I'm staying consistent with my choice from then.
Okay. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Nay.
Okay, resolution passes 4-1. All right, thank you all very much for that, and thank you to the really city staff and Scott, I think you ran first budget with us, so very well done. Thank you, appreciate the work on city staff's part and our community members for our budget committee. It's the first time in a while that we actually went 3 meetings for our budget, but it needed to be done, so perfect. Thank you. All right, that concludes all the public hearings for this evening. We're going to move into ordinances and resolutions. First ordinance number 1623, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to execute a contract with Polar Systems Incorporated of Westland, Oregon to provide managed IT services for the City of Canby for second reading. And Eileen, if you want to give a quick synopsis on that.
This is the second reading of the Polar Systems contract. We had first reading last week or last month. As Todd mentioned at that point, we had a very robust selection process for that that resulted in the identification of Polar as the contractor. So we're here for the second reading of this item.
Okay. Great, thank you. Counselor Patton?
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt ordinance number 1623, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to execute a contract with Polar Systems Incorporated of Westland, Oregon, to provide managed IT services for the city of Canby on a roll call vote.
Thank you, sir.
Second.
Motion has been made by Counselor Patton and seconded by Counselor Stearns to adopt ordinance number 1623, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to execute a contract with Polar Systems Incorporated of Westland, Oregon, to provide managed IT services for the city of Canby. Any discussion?
Yes, please.
Yes, Council President Hensley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to address my abstention last meeting. It was because I had some questions, and I wasn't comfortable voting either way on this measure at the point in time. I'm also very disappointed in the slightly disrespectful delivery of the presentation. While that still stays, I am appreciative of Eileen getting me the answers to my questions on the timeline of the contract. And so I am prepared to actually make a decision tonight and not abstain.
Okay. Great. Any other discussion points? Okay. Roll call vote.
Counselor Patton? Counselor Patton?
Aye.
Counselor Davis?
Nay.
Counselor Stearns?
Aye.
Counselor Sassy?
Aye.
Council President Hensley?
Aye.
Okay. Motion carries 4-1. Next up is ordinance number 1624, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a contract with Axon Enterprises in the amount of $140,965.04 for the purchase of tasers, equipment, software, and services. Also, second reading with a roll call vote. So this is, new equipment. Sergeant Kitzmiller, since you're here, why don't you come up to the table? I'm going to put you on the spot. I've kind of started this tradition. I might as well keep it going, right?
Good evening.
Good evening. So new tasers.
New tasers, so that also includes cartridges, training, and for live deployment. It includes software, new charging docks, batteries, replacement during this 5-year period if we did have any problems or issues with the tasers. And also like a target system that we can use for training. So yeah, the whole new package. We first purchased tasers in 2004. Over the years, they came out with new products. And so 2013, the oldest generation of tasers that we currently have are technology from 2013. 2018, we upgraded that. So some of what we have is from 2018, but what we would be purchasing is the new latest and greatest product that they're offering.
What is what's the life of this particular grouping? Will you get 10 years out of it, or are we looking at 5 years when this is all done?
So 5 years, and
change them out.
chances are technology, could change by then. But yeah, 5 years is the life that they will back the product.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Any questions for Officer Kitzmiller?
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt ordinance number 1624, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a contract with Axon Enterprises in the amount of $140,965.04 for the purchase of tasers, equipment, software, and services.
Second.
Motion is made by Council President Hensley, seconded by Councilor Davis to approve ordinance number 1624, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a contract with Axon Enterprises in the amount of $140,965.04 for the purchase of tasers, equipment, software, and services. Roll call vote.
Counselor Patton?
Aye.
Counselor Davis?
Aye.
Counselor Stearns?
Aye.
Counselor Sassy?
Aye.
Council President Hensley?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries 5-0. Thank you, sir. Next ordinance is 1625, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to expend payment to city county insurance, CIS, in the amount not to exceed $500,000 for liability insurance coverage for fiscal year 24-25. Kevin,
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
good evening, sir.
So this is something that comes up every year, and this is just renewing all of our liability insurance with CIS services.
What's the increase for this year?
This year, there was a little bit of a blended rate. So because we have law enforcement, our liability went up by 7.4%,
Okay,
and then the property by 16.5%.
ouch.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good thing is some of the other ones, cyber, stayed put at 0, no increase there. And there's a few of the other ones that weren't. These are the two that increased the most.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Aguilar? Yes, Daniel.
What's the limits on the insurance policy?
Each one has a different line item. So for automobile, property, but most of them are, they more than cover the city's needs for those, yeah.
Does this also cover liability for like lawsuits and that sort of thing?
There's that through them. And then the next one we're gonna read is for workers' comp, so a little bit more liability there too.
Okay.
Great. Counselor Patton?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt ordinance number 1625, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to expend payment to City Country Insurance Services, CIS, in the amount not to exceed $500,000 for liability insurance coverage for fiscal year 2024-2025.
Second. The motion has been made by Counselor Patton, seconded by Counselor Sassy to approve ordinance number 1625, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to expend coverage for fiscal year 2024-2025. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That passes 5-0. Next is ordinance number 1626, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to expend payment to SAIF Corporation in the amount not to exceed $114,493.71 for workers' comp coverage for fiscal year 2024-2025. Kevin?
Got the pleasure of this one as well. So with Safe Corporation, we carry all of our liability insurance, workers' comp. And we'll have an audit. We had one last August, and it will determine if we have any modified rates or any increases. But for the most part, we've been pretty responsible with that and very comparable to our rate last year as well.
Okay, great. Thank you. Question? Yes?
Is this amount in this ordinance include the the workman's comp or the, I guess, for the volunteers?
It does, yeah. So it'll
It's
cover.
not going to be a separate, it's all included this time?
Well, I have it as a separate resolution later on as well for volunteers.
Oh, okay, you do. I didn't think that far, okay.
Made it as two, but it's still built under this umbrella.
Okay,
So yeah, so we get charged for every $100 of payroll. There's an incident rate and
okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Great. Counselor Stearns?
Here's a question, is SAFE the only game in town for city employees, or have you looked around other carriers? I know there's other carriers for, I don't know if they cover cities and stuff, but I know that workers' comp, there's sometimes
Yeah, state of Oregon and public employers, SAFE is really the go-to in Oregon.
Great. Any other discussion, or, sorry, question for Mr. Aguilar? Counselor Patton?
I move to adopt ordinance number 1626, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to extend payment to SAIF Corporation in the amount of $114,493.71 for workers' comp coverage for fiscal year 2024-2025.
Second.
Motion made by Counselor Patton and seconded by Counselor Sassy to approve ordinance number 1626, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to expend payment to SAIF Corporation in the amount of $114,493.71 for workers' comp coverage for fiscal year 2024-2025. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? That passes 5-0. Next is resolution number 1407, a resolution authorizing the extension of municipal sewer service to 267 South Walnut Street, tax lot 31E34, 01900, located outside of the Canby city limits, pursuant to the Urban Growth Management Agreement between Clackamas County and the City of Canby. Mr. Nalzine. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So, yeah, actually, Dawn and Emma wrote staff report for this one, so she's on vacation, so I'm filling in here. I usually do the other side of this, so I'm excited to get here and sell you on this. The applicants are here if there's questions, and I believe their attorney's with also, but this one here is kind of a slam dunk. I think you can look on the map of the location of this. It's next to Dragonberry. It's a property. When we built the Walnut Street extension years ago, I don't remember what year that was now off the top of my head, but we put in dry lines and sewer out there, so they've just been sitting waiting. Columbia Distributing ended up going in and going another direction, so this line has been dry. This business is outside of this, or this house is outside of the city limits, so their septic system has failed, so Clackamas County works with the City of Canby on these situations, and if sewer is ready available, they require them to connect. That's what's happened, and they've agreed to annex within 2 years, which is great news, and we can start collecting sewer bills for this line that we put in years ago. So I am in big support of this. I hope you pass this motion.
Okay.
If you have any questions, let me know.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Nalzine? Yes, Council President Hensley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Jerry, you said that there's an agreement to annex in within 2 years.
Correct.
How's that enforceable?
That's an agreement that they sign and they work out with Don Hardy with our planning department.
Okay.
And so it's all in a contract. So if they break that agreement, there's rules that will go through legal on that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Jerry, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You work hard, you need a vacation.
Thank you.
Don't give him any ideas. Okay. I'll take a motion if there is one.
Oh, okay, Mr. Mayor, I will move to adopt Resolution 1407, a resolution authorizing the extension of municipal sewer service to 267 South Walnut Street, located outside the city limits.
Second.
I'm sorry, was that you, Councilor Patton?
Yes.
Motion's been made by Council President Hensley and seconded by Councilor Patton to consider resolution number 1407, a resolution authorizing the extension of municipal sewer service to 267 South Walnut Street, located outside city limits. Any discussion? Councilor Patton?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that this is actually something that happens from time to time, that there are utilities like this that are extended out into areas that are not actually part of the city limits. I remember when I was on council years ago, that there was some houses up there where territorial attaches to, or comes into 99E, where their wells were having trouble, and so it was decided, it was approved to extend water service to those houses. So while this does seem strange, and with some of the concerns that came out of originally the dog park and the irrigation being on county property, that it is actually something that happens from time to time, and this is an acceptable way of doing that.
Okay.
I might add, it is quite common as well. So many cities have policies in place that say if there's nearby infrastructure, that it will be extended, and that, that annexation will be considered when that happens.
Okay. So pretty common. Okay. So any other discussion items or comments? All those in favor? Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? That passes 5-0. Thank you for your patience this evening. Next up is Resolution 1408, a resolution adopting a transfer of library contingency funds for the fiscal year 2023 to 2024. And I believe that Mr. Slag is back to tell us some more.
So there is an addition to this resolution. This resolution, as you did state, is in regards to the library fund budget and as well as the general fund budget. I believe, have you been received any additional information about this add-on in regards to the general fund? If not, I can go through a brief explanation real quick.
Let's do that, Scott.
Okay. So consideration of resolution number 1408 includes this additional amount for the general fund. This additional appropriations are needed to cover the building fund personnel costs. These costs were based on management's allocations utilized during the fiscal year 23-24 personnel budget projections, but were later determined to be overstated based on actuals. A subsequent change in allocation was made, however, transferring contingency funds to cover the possibility of an overexpenditure is insurance in this case. And therefore, because of that, this was done a little bit too late in the year when I discovered it. That is, there's just not enough time in the remaining part of this fiscal year to have a change that will see a positive impact. That is why I feel that it's best that we move some money over from our contingency fund over into our building fund in order to make sure that we don't overexpend. That's that piece. Are there questions in regards to that?
Does not appear to be.
Okay. The next one that you should have information on is the library fund. If you recall, the council adopted resolution number 1388, authorizing an interfund loan from the Cemetery Perpetual Care Fund to the library fund in the amount of $500,000, and authorizing repayment of the interfund loan in fiscal year 2024. This interfund loan also approved an interest-bearing component to be repaid in fiscal year 2024. However, the interest expenditure component was not appropriated in the original adopted budget. Therefore, this basically allows us to move those monies into the budget and appropriate that, so that way I can pay back Cemetery Perpetual Care Fund. However, I need approval to get that into the budget to appropriate it before I actually write a check.
Got it.
Those are the two in front of you for 1408. Are there questions?
Any questions? Councilor Patton, you have a question, or are you looking to make a motion?
I have a question real quick.
Yes, sir.
How much is the interest this year that the library would have to pay back?
Just under $14,000.
So when we were having our discussion during the budget process for the next fiscal year, it was my understanding that the council could make the decision, instead of having the library fund pay that money back to the general fund, that essentially that interest could be pulled out of reserve and paid into that fund to make that interest part whole. Is that correct?
I believe there were several things talked about in regards to this.
Okay.
I would personally want to go back and review it without giving you a yes or a no.
So I guess my question is, rather than have the library fund pay the interest on this loan for this last year, can the interest be made whole from our reserves?
In this fiscal year? No.
Yes. No. Okay. Then I guess I'm ready to make a motion.
But, so we're talking about this year or next year?
Next year, next year is still open to be able to pay from, but that must be appropriated.
Because I do remember the conversation being that,
It's on our little council parking lot list.
It's been appropriated for next year.
okay,
This year, I cannot do anything
You're right,
because
it is on
it's not been appropriated.
Okay.
And if you're talking about ending fund balance or a reserve, I cannot pull that out.
okay.
Okay.
Counselor Patton,
I move to adopt resolution number 1408, a resolution authorizing the transfer of appropriated funds within the fiscal year 2023-2024 library fund budget.
thank you. Second. Motion's been made by Counselor Patton, seconded by Counselor Sassy. Let's see, where am I at? To fund. Thank you. Has been moved to approve Resolution 1408, resolution authorizing this transfer of appropriated funds within the fiscal year 23-24 general and library fund budget. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? That passes 5-0. So then you just also spoke about Resolution 1412, Scott?
Resolution 1412, that's for this upcoming fiscal year.
Okay. So that's our next resolution, sir. Go for it.
This is rinse and repeat of what you've seen before in the past. This is the same motion where to cover the first 6 months of operating for the library, they have a interfund loan of $500,000 in fiscal year '25. And the loan shall be repaid within fiscal year '25 with an interest bearing at the rate earned by the state of local government investment pool, the Oregon Local Investment Pool, otherwise known as the LGIP. Any questions on that?
Questions for Scott? Counselor Patton?
So now we go back to my initial question. Is this where, the council could choose to, rather than make the library pay the interest, that the city could cover the interest from reserves?
Yes. This portion of the interest bearing can be removed, and then the 15,000 would basically be coming out of ending fund balance in '24, which would just basically be appropriated in the library fund. If you're asking for the general fund to pay it, then we could show it as a transfer of money from one fund to the other fund, if that's how it wants to be shown. Otherwise, it's basically just appropriating the funds to be expended in the library.
I get, the reason I ask is I would like the library to be able to use the interest, which I think was going to be like $15,000 or something like that.
Estimated.
To to help with library services, but I also don't want to short the cemetery perpetual care fund the interest that it would have made on its earnings. So I guess I would implore my fellow counselors to consider doing such a thing. I'm not sure how I would do that. Do I make an amendment to this motion? Well, it's not even a motion yet, but if it was to be done, could I make amendment to this motion or change the motion, or how would that work?
So explain what it is that you're wanting to do or looking to do, Jason.
What I would like to do is not have the library pay back the interest from its tax money, the money that it gets to operate, so that it can use that $15,000, estimated $15,000 for services to the library, and then pull the money from somewhere else within the budget, whether it be from the reserves or whatever, to then make sure that the perpetual care fund gets that money that they would have earned on interest.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying. Council President Hensley, you have a comment?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is one of the items that is on the council parking lot list of things that we wanted to discuss after the budget process was over. I feel like this is going to be a longer conversation than for tonight, as we would have to discuss where that money might come from. So my question to Scott, I guess, would be, if we just approve it as is now, we could do a budget amendment later for where that money would come from? A supplemental budget?
Not necessarily.
No.
A supplemental budget wouldn't, I mean, we've already, if you appropriate it, it's showing us 15,000. If we don't expend it, then in a budget to actual comparison, it would just show as the actual of zero. We didn't actually expend anything. So on the library fund financial side of things, that's what it would look like. There's really no harm, no foul if we don't expend it. If the money does come from another fund, then I would need to be able to show the fund transfer, so to speak, that the fund is transferring it over to the other fund. As Jason has pointed out, or I'm sorry, Councilor Patton has pointed out, what I would probably wind up showing is that there would be another transfer from the general fund, but it would be coming out of the ending fund balance at the end of 2024. So that reduces our beginning fund balance, because I would have to take $15,000 and move that in addition to what I've already moving as a transfer over to the library that they receive from the general fund. It's kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul, and it's just a matter of showing it on the line item.
So I guess the essence of my question is, we can approve this as it is now and decide later what pot you're going to transfer that from. We don't have to decide that right now.
Yes.
That's
Thank you.
correct.
That's what I needed to know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry, too much information.
No, that's quite all right. So given all of that, then I would just move to approve or adopt resolution 1412, a resolution authorizing an interfund loan from the Cemetery Perpetual Care Fund to the Library Fund in the amount of $500,000 and authorizing repayment of the interfund loan in the fiscal year 24-25.
Second.
Motion's been made by Council President Hensley and seconded by Councilor Davis to approve resolution or adopt resolution number 1412, a resolution authorizing an interfund loan from the Cemetery Perpetual Care Fund to the Library Fund in the amount of $500,000 and authorizing repayment of the interloan fund in the fiscal year 24-25. Any other discussion? Councilor Patton and then Councilor Stearns.
Yeah, so I guess I just want to make sure, so I guess I'm a little confused because we had said we couldn't do it for last year because we had approved everything. Now this is approving this, so then how are we able to possibly do it later if we approve this? I'm not understanding why. I'm not understanding how it can't work for last year, but somehow we can do it for this year once everything's approved.
Yes, Eileen.
I could explain. So, yes, you've just adopted the budget. However, if it is your policy to want to revisit this, where this money comes from, we can certainly work session it, or have a discussion later about this particular issue, and then we can work through how that, where the money comes from at that point in time. So what I'm hearing from this motion, I wouldn't offer it as an amendment, but what I'm hearing is I will add this to your list of future work session topics, so that we don't lose track of this, of the council's interest in this issue, and then we will bring it back at an appropriate time. So.
Okay.
I'm writing it down, Councillor Patton.
Counselor Stearns?
No, I was just thinking this through right now. We're contemplating the future, maybe for a future session, is approving more money for the library, from some other source, which in itself is maybe okay, but at the same time, the library itself is asking for less revenue in late fees and other kinds of things. And so I think a kind of overall discussion of how we want the library to be funded in as much as it is in our control. I know some of it's outside of our control with library districts or that sort of thing, but
Right.
But I just want to point out to be talked about in future discussions, why are we approving more money when they're asking for less money from
That's the second part.
other sources?
Yeah.
And I don't want to be too argument about it, but I do have a business in accounting, and I see money from one to another, and maybe I see it as more fungible than it really is, but I kind of see it related,
Well, and I would, I guess, just emphasize what Marissa has told you already, that, the way libraries are funded in this county, through the library district, the hands are tied in terms of how much they receive from the countywide library levy, and that is being looked at this year. So there could be more to this conversation as we get closer to that issue of what the LDAC decides and the county commission decide they're going to put out for an adjusted library levy.
Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? That passes 5-0. Next is Resolution 1413. Mr. Schlag, thank you very much, sir. A resolution extending workers' compensation coverage to volunteers of the City of Canby and repealing Resolution 1390. Mr. Regular.
So this is the one Council President Hensley mentioned earlier. It is still built into the rate under our workers' comp with SAVE, but it's a specific line item to cover our volunteers across the city.
Any questions on this one? Again, this is an annual piece that we do, and this is, just as Kevin explained, this is ensuring our city volunteers and whatnot in case of injury during whatever may occur, an Independence Day parade, perhaps.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt resolution number 1413, a resolution extending workman's compensation coverage to volunteers of the City of Canby and repealing resolution 1390.
Second. Motion been made by Council President Hensley and seconded by Councilor Sassy to approve Resolution 1413, a resolution extending workers' compensation coverage to volunteers of the City of Canby and repealing Resolution 1390. Any discussion at all? Yes.
Just a quick question, and I could be wrong, but my understanding of workers' compensation law is if somebody takes workers' compensation, they're not allowed to sue the company that allegedly their injury occurred. So like, I know for my business, if one of my workers cuts open their wrist with a piece of paper or whatever, and they take workers' compensation, they can't sue me. So workers' compensation is a protection for me as a business owner, as well as for my employees that work for me. If that's correct, does that work the same way for volunteers? If a volunteer were to have an injury and then get a workers' compensation payment, would they also be prohibited from suing the city for that injury?
I saw David on mute as well, so he's.
Or maybe I'm wrong, it could be, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yes, generally speaking, unless there's some, I would say malfeasance, from the employer that created the injury, but by and large, you're just traditional, nobody at fault, it happens, workplace accidents happens, including volunteers. The legislature has said you can't sue employers for that, you must go through a workers' comp system. So as long as there's not malfeasance on the part of the employer, you're right.
Okay, so this actually protects the city as much as it protects the workers.
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that, bring that out and make sure my understanding was correct.
Great deal. All right, any other questions? I'll take a motion.
I already did.
Oh, we did, sorry. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, that carries 5-0.
Thanks, Kevin.
Next and final resolution this evening is
We don't,
1414.
yeah, we don't need this resolution, so we'll pull this off the agenda.
Oh,
My apologies.
okay. Never mind.
Okay.
That was our last one. Okay, great. Moving into old business, anything new on this one, Eileen, city attorney? Nope. Moving on. Yes, sir.
When when are we expected to get the next updated bar graph of expenses, monthly costs for this?
We will get that to you.
Awesome.
For
Yes.
in July for the last quarter?
In July for the last quarter, yeah.
Okay. Does that help there, Counselor Patton?
Yeah, and I just wanted to see, I'm hoping that the bars can be added for what's been budgeted and how the actuals are tracking to budgeted per month.
Okay. Moving into mayor's business, a couple of things. So after our last city council meeting at the beginning of the month, we had First Thursday, and Council President Hensley and I sat at the city complaint desk outside or on First Thursday, and we said hi to a lot of people, talked to a lot of people, and the only real thing that came about was a gentleman is requesting that we have or we develop more apartments in Canby for those 55 and older. So something I think for future housing conversation down the road, but I just thought I'd share. Tomorrow evening, we have another community meeting for our comprehensive plan, and that is at 6 o'clock at Baker Prairie Middle School. So please, those of you tuning in, please come down and get caught up on what's going on with that. The next pieces that we'll be moving into will be around transportation, so roads and transit and those kinds of things. So your input will be greatly appreciated. Let's see, Clackamas County Coordinating Committee. Recently, we had our annual retreat this past weekend. A couple of major threads talking about housing and how are we looking to meet Governor Kotek's housing goal of 36,000 dwellings per year across the state, which I kind of brought the council up to speed on, I think either the last meeting or the meeting before. So again, looking at that, it sounds like the governor's office is working on metrics and kind of a process on what that will look like. Is it, because right now it's just that 36,000 is peanut buttered across the entire state. But obviously that not every city in Oregon can handle 110,000 or 110 homes a year being added to their community. So we'll see what that looks like coming up. The other piece we discussed was transportation funding. So, and as it looks at the legislative session, so the next legislative session here coming up in 2025, there is already discussion of another transportation funding package. And so there is already been determined that there will be an increase in funding for transportation around, the finishing the Abernathy Bridge to Stafford stretch on 205, Rose Quarter, Interstate Bridge, and now, trying to add in the Boones Bridge in that conversation as well. The big piece is if tolling is not on the table, what would be and what would we get behind as a county? And so next meeting, I will bring back some of the things that were put out there as potential adjustments to certain items for funding for these projects. And then we finish up with setting the work plan for the year ahead. Also, Independence Day celebration is coming up here in a couple of weeks. Ms. Stickle.
July 4th.
Is that when Independence? Fabulous, thank you.
You scheduled that this year for that day?
Perfect. No, my question was going to be, are float signups and whatnot going on right now? And where can people sign up to, yeah, that'd be great, to create a float or volunteer or all the above?
So the 4th of July, the Canby Independence Day celebration will be back downtown Canby on July 4th. And yes, we're looking for volunteers from anything from helping with the car show or helping to get vendors in their proper spots. We've got lots of parade activities, so there's always spots there where people can participate. It's not too late to sign up to have a float in the parade, and if a float seems too big, there's also the potential to you could drive a car with a sign on it, you could walk with a sign. There's lots of different options, sky's the limit, and I think it's gonna be a really great year. There's a lot of planning that's been underway, and it's gonna come to fruition, and I think it's gonna be one of our best yet. And then when you're done with the day, you can head over to Baker Prairie Cemetery and Baker Prairie Middle School and Trost to see the fireworks that the Canby Fire Volunteer Association puts on. So it's a fun day, and I'm sure that it's going to be a blast for everybody.
Great.
A blast, fireworks. Good.
See what you did there.
Thanks, Jamie. Yeah, so the Canby Historical Society will be doing a pancake feed, it's a classic car show, the parade, tons of activities, so mark your calendar, plan for the day, and come celebrate that with us. And finally, I did want to follow up with last week's comments that were presented to the council regarding kind of an ongoing issue that we are working through. And so it was those comments and then comments that are being made publicly through other avenues and channels. And I just wanted to say that the accusation that the council has not been taking action or that staff has done nothing, I know is false. When the information came forward to city staff did respond quickly and accordingly. I was notified within hours of the complaint being brought forward. And then city staff and myself with the council had an exec session shortly thereafter to get briefed on the matter at hand. Within that conversation and in handling the situation, we did, the council in the exec session, address the matter at hand. Can't get into it because it was exec session, but appropriate measures with the information we had at the time was handled. Now, there have been things as alluded to by one of the speakers last week, and I think in a couple comments out and about, was that we weren't taking enough action, and the big piece of action that was wanting to be taken was not in our purview. As Councilor Stearns noted at the end of the last meeting, that's not in our ability to do the actions that are being discussed in terms of whether or not a counselor, should be or should not be remaining on the council. That's not our call. And again, we took appropriate action based on the information and the steps taken about the complaint. Now, once the police report was made, that sets a different balls in action. We have been, again, very quick to respond on that. Staff quickly began the process to investigate that. And for us to do that, that requires reaching out to an outside agency, specifically an outside police agency, to do the investigation because it's an internal matter. And that was immediately deployed and done as soon as the complaint came in. So again, it's not that we sat here in silence or that we didn't do anything. There are certain things we just, because of the nature of the situation, and in our part of our job is to protect the city, we have to do that. And I believe that city staff and the council did the things that we needed to do and acted appropriately. The behavior of harassment of any kind within City Hall by a staff member or by a counselor, whether it's in the City Hall or it's out in the public, will not be tolerated. And I believe that we have reacted accordingly and are doing our due diligence in the right way that we need to do it. Unless we are told otherwise by our attorney, we will continue down making the correct actions that we need to make on this matter. So again, sometimes, and I hesitated on making this comment tonight because for 12 years I've sat here and there have been nights where we get shelled here on the dais on things that are not accurate. And so I feel that it is a serious matter, yes, and I'm not diminishing that. What I am articulating is that I will not let the council and our staff be admonished for not taking action when they did. So that's where I will conclude for this evening on that.
And Mr. Mayor, may I just say a word about that?
Yes, sir.
So I just wanted to point out, I mean, everything the mayor said is accurate, and to the extent there's any confusion about this, the direction about saying little and saying essentially what has been said from the council is coming from our office. That's if there's frustration over the fact that the council is not speaking or there's not more elaboration, that should, if there's a place to direct that, direct it to the city attorney. And the fact of the matter is, I think any city attorney in this position, whether it's this matter or another one involving personnel matters, personal matters, hopefully we get the same advice. And that's just the world we live in. I don't mean to say that in any way to frustrate people, or it is what it is. The council is acting consistent with how we've advised the city.
Thank you, David. I appreciate it. We will start on Zoom and start with Councilor Davis for council comments and reports.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. And I apologize for not being there tonight. Over in Spokane, my brother's memorial service, which is tomorrow, so I've been traveling quite a bit. So on the Park and Rec side of things, Auburn Farms is under final design. They hope the next steps would be to get administrative approval on the design for Auburn Farms. And then, of course, this would go to City Council for approval with an estimated start date of March of 2025. Legacy Park Exercise Court is moving right along. And Maple Street, well start, and we learned, Brian Oliver verified that the turf infield will actually be brown in color, in case anybody was wondering what the color of that would be. And the park bench program is going very well. The Park and Rec Committee does have 2 vacancies now with Lisa Potter. She's moved on from the Park and Rec Committee. We are going to miss Lisa tremendously. Lisa was dedicated to the Park and Rec Committee, and so I'm trying to get her to the City Council for some recognition of some sort at one of our council meetings. And then as the mayor announced tonight too, in the invocation, basically Barbara Kermel died unexpectedly at our cabin in Montana. So we will be missing Barbara. She contributed to the Park and Rec Committee, and she was actually at last month, and I had an opportunity to speak with her. We are going to miss Barbara. But please keep Barbara and her family in your prayers as we move forward. Let's see, in regards to the fire department front, I do want to thank Amy Stickle for her assistance in getting the grant to assist with the fireworks display that will take place. So thank you, Jamie, for the work on helping to get that. Fireworks will happen, and it will happen the following year based on the donations that have come in so far. And the last item that I had was just, I know that the chamber has received a request from the businesses along Highway 99 to find out loss of business that has occurred caused by the 99 construction project. I personally had an opportunity to visit with Point S and Ben Millar, and he was very disappointed in regards to his outreach to the construction company to come in and talk to him about his loss of business and how they could do a better job of getting street closures minimized so that his business wasn't being impacted. But I know numerous businesses along Highway 99 have felt the impact on that. And so I know the director of the chamber has written a letter out there to the state, to the county, as well as the city will be receiving that as well. I just saw that in my email later on today. So, end of report.
Thanks, Jim. Yeah, I did see that email from the chamber today, and I appreciate you bringing that up. And during our break today, I did speak with Jerry Nelzine, our Public Works Director, and had him reach back out to ODOT to follow up on some of those construction pieces, because when the regional, I think, what is Paul Scarlett's title? We'll call him the regional ODOT guru was here. He did say that the crews were going to be going to 6 days a week, as well as working overnight to get this done. And I have not seen much work being done at night, or there being a 6th day. And so Mr. Nelzine is looking into that and has made a couple of calls. But to those watching at home, again, yes, it's 99E businesses, it's businesses downtown. Please take the consideration of thinking and acting locally before you go to Amazon or you go out of town to do your business. It's going to be another couple of months of paving and construction that we need to get through. So please do what you can to support those businesses as much as possible. Okay. Thank you, Chief Davis. Sorry, Councilor Davis. Councilor Patton.
Yes, so real quick, I also attended First Thursday for the month and stopped into the table to chat with Council President Hensley and the mayor. And I am now signed up to work the table on the first Thursday in October. So I'll either be in a parka or shorts, depending on how the weather decides it wants to play out this fall, we'll see. I attended the Planning Commission meeting where they finalized and sent their recommendation forward to the City Council regarding the housing needs analysis. So I'm looking forward to that coming up for us to discuss and to review some of the recommendations that the Planning Commission made as part of that. I also attended the Canby Utility Board meeting where they adopted liability limits for people who are visiting or utilizing Canby utility property that are members of the public. They also updated their fire mitigation plan, and they are still they're continuing to move forward regarding their owner's rep and all that entails with updating the plan to build a new water treatment plant. I attended the landowners meeting as part of the comprehensive plan update as well, and it was well attended again. There was some robust discussion as far as what people think should and shouldn't be done as far as land being brought into the urban growth boundary as part of the expansion or not. There's still confusion as to what the city can and cannot do when it comes to once land is brought into the urban growth boundary. There were quite a few people who thought that thought that their taxes would go up. That is not the case because it's still county land, that the city would somehow force them to annex into the city, and that is not a thing. The city cannot do those sort of things. So after the meeting, I did have some folks come up to me and have a chat with me, and I tried to help city staff with answering some of those questions. So hopefully I didn't get us in more trouble than we already are. I had a chance to meet with Jerry and Chris in Public Works Department about the signs honoring Frank Cutsforth during the Cutsforth Cruise-In. So things continue along with that. So you can stay posted for more updates as we go. As far as the Willamette Falls Landing Heritage Area Coalition, I had mentioned in my update a few months ago that I took on the role as the projects and programs chair, and as such, I have now also been elevated to the executive board as a member at large. So I thank that group and those that feel that I serve a valuable purpose and am able to help advance the mission of that group moving forward. Looking forward to, I'm looking forward to attending the Canby Pride event, which is this Sunday in Wake Park in the afternoon. So I'll be there for that to show my support for those folks. And this question I tried to bring up when Jamie was up front, but I didn't get a chance. If I wanted to participate in the parade this year, how do I sign up for that as a city councilor? Is that something I go through you folks?
Yes, we can send you an application for that. And the way that works, which that's a great question because we haven't addressed this, but it is an election year. So all of the city councilors and mayor are welcome to participate in the parade. If you are running for re-election and campaigning for re-election, there's a fee attributed to that. If you are just walking in support of Canby as a city councilor, there's no fee. And that applies to, the Clackamas County Commissioners, if the president wanted to come, all the way up, all the way down. So it's a $25 fee if you're campaigning during the parade.
Yeah, I'm not looking to campaign, I'm just looking to participate.
Yes, and we'll send you the application. I can send it out to mayor and council so that everybody
fantastic.
has it. And that just goes to development services upstairs at City Hall.
Okay, and that is it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, Jamie? Are there going to be really, really neat volunteer shirts for those that volunteer?
Yes, there are.
Wonderful.
I do not know yet what those look like, but
Okay.
I'm sure that they're going to be great. And I'm sure that mayor and council have been collecting the shirts over the years.
Yeah, if I bring home another T-shirt, I think my wife might divorce me, but hey.
Well, the nice thing about having the new ones is it's good for painting, you know, in the future.
Sure.
Those camping, whatever you need, so.
You got it.
And it's got our sponsors on the back, so if people are interested in sponsoring the Canby Independence Day celebration, they can contact myself or Tyler Nizer. We're always looking for business sponsors, and that is a way to advance businesses in the community and also help a very great, worthy community event.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, wait, Jamie? No, I'm just kidding.
Counselor Sassy. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So Library Board had their meeting last night, and Marissa came up with a strategic plan with goals and priorities. The board will go over that and nitpick what they want and what they don't want. And then she also got 3 new employees, which she was very happy about, and they are updating their donation policies and process. And then on their whiteboard, their summer events are going to be held at Waite Park unless it's too hot. And then the next, they also have a patio tour. It will be the weekend of the 29th, and there are 5 homes involved in that. So, and that's it. Great, thank you. Counselor Stearns.
I don't have any message from any of the committees that I go to. I haven't seen that yet. I just wanted to reiterate what I said earlier. I voted for this fee schedule, but I was very uncomfortable doing that because there was a lot of fees, and I feel that at least some of the fees I've looked at are divorced from the economic benefit that they provide. And that's, of course, I think a discussion for the council in general, not for me just to come up with another number in the top of my head, because I don't like the one number. But those fees affect, is one of the direct things that affect the citizens of Canby directly, and things that we have control over. So I would like in the future, or at least sometime, to have a work session to go over the fees, why they are the way they are, and the ones that are not there for general fundraisers of the people they're getting feed from, and other kinds of things. So and without going into detail and derailing the meeting, I felt very uncomfortable with having so many fees with so little discussion on the actual dollar amounts.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Council President Hensley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You actually have covered half my list, so thank you for that. As I was also at the CFAR retreat, and I was going to remind people about the comp plan meeting, et cetera. First Thursday was fun. I look forward to doing that again this year, hopefully without a parka. And I also attended with City Administrator Eileen Stein. We went to the Clackamas Cities Association dinner in Milwaukee, where they had a presentation on their housing projects and gave us a tour of their behemoth new city hall. They've remodeled and refurbished the old credit union building, and so they have a nice 3-floor building. Their council chambers is on the top floor, where most of the city services the public would go to, goes up on the 3rd floor. And there's a nice view of the town too, from the patio, the outside rooftop patio. So that was an enjoyable evening. And then Traffic Safety Commission, on that front, they are still working on wordsmithing the criteria for the speed limit lowering. They're working with the planning department on that, and we should probably see a proposal come to the council here in the next couple of months. And with that, I just have a quick question for Teresa. I noticed there's a little dot here. There's a number 1 in the chat. Is that something we've already addressed, or is that something we need to have read into the record? And that's the end of my report.
I think it was actually Melissa. Yeah.
Oh, okay, she had already said that. Okay. Perfect. I just wanted to make sure something didn't get missed. Thank you for looking. That's all, Mr. Mayor.
Great, thank you. City Administrator Business and Staff Reports.
A couple things I wanted to report on. First, I will be at the OCCMA Summer Conference next week. So I'll be out Monday through Thursday. Chief Tro will be acting in capacity while I'm away. So that's that. And then spent a lot of time this week kind of responding to and thinking about council goals and how to report back to the council. So, you know, what I've heard and what I've decided to do is to present a quarterly council goals update, and we're working on one right now because it's been a few months since you set your goals. Having a mid-year goal review session, working the council goals into the bi-monthly staff reports that are received, and they will be literally at the front part of those bi-monthly staff reports so that your goals are identified there. And then I'll also be working those goals into department evaluations so that department heads are working towards your council goals. And then next month, I will start by giving you an annual or a monthly financial report. So that's how I'm going to report progress on goals and the city's financials to you. And so just wanted to make sure that that met your reporting needs. I think the only other project tracking sheet that we have given the council once or twice in my time here has been the CIP project tracking sheet. So I need to think about that as well. So.
Anything else?
No.
Okay. Next opportunity for citizen input. Not seeing any. We move into action review. Teresa.
You have approved the consent agenda, adopted ordinances number 1623 and 1624, approved ordinances 1625 and 1626 to a second reading on July 17th, 2024, approved resolution numbers 1407, 1408, 1409, 1410, 1411, 1411A, 1412, and 1413.
Again, one of the busiest nights of our year. Thank you for that, Teresa. Appreciate it. Next on our agenda before we adjourn is, actually, we are going to adjourn to an executive session. And so I will take a motion to go to exec session.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we move to executive session pursuant to ORS 192.660, parent 2, parent E, to conduct deliberations with persons designated by a governing body to negotiate real property transactions, and ORS 192.660, parent 2, parent F, to consider information or records that are exempt by law from public inspection, which allows the agency to meet in executive session.
Great.
Second.
Moved by Council President Hensley, second by Councilor Davis, to move into exec session under pursuant to 192.660, parent 2, parent E, and 192.660, parent 2, parent F. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, representatives of so executive sections are closed to the public. Representatives of the news, media, and designated staff may attend executive sessions. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report on any of the deliberations during the executive session, except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. No executive session may be held for the purpose of taking final action or making any final decisions. If there are any needed, we will move out of exec session and come back into our regular session. So, Canby, that concludes our regular meeting. We will be moving to exec session. Thank you. Have a great evening and enjoy your Independence Day celebrations. Thanks.